on the paper, a science paper, which was published in 2012, that demystified how CRISPR-Cas9 bacteria immune system worked in vitro. So, the Nobel Prize came in after 8 years since the science paper publication, and which is also after the CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing tool is confirmed as a gene editing tool in human cells. So, meanwhile, some of you might hear a big fights going on over the CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing patents in the US. So some people might wonder why don't the Nobel Prize winners take it all? No, the winner does not take it all here. There are many other parties. So one of them is the Broad Institute. They managed to secure a CRISPR-Cas9 patent via fast-track patent examination procedure earlier than the Nobel Prize group, aka CVC. So the CVC might get furious, right? Because they are the Nobel Prize winner, but the Broad Institute got the patent earlier than them. So they urged, the CVC urged the US Patent Office to initiate an interference against Broad. So interference is a special patent examination procedure when multiple parties compete for patent on the same invention. So at this point, we encounter an interesting question. As a patent right is an exclusive right? So when multiple parties pursue patent on the same invention, who would win? So there are two solutions. The first to file and first to invent. So now every country on the globe adopts the first to file system. So under the first to file system, the government does not care. We don't care who comes up with the invention first. Just raise your hand first, then you will get the patent. That's the attitude of the first to file. So, patent system is an administrative policy to promote science and technology. So the patent right is given by the government as a reward for the inventors put their inventions into the public domain. So the first to file system is very easy and most convenient for the government. But on the other hand, under the first to invent system, the one who invents first will get the patent. Sounds fair and just, but it's not easy to figure out who is the first, and the patent law becomes more complicated. But up until 10 years ago, the US is the only country that adopted the first to invent system. So under this system, if A filed later than B, that means B raised her hand first. But under this system, A will get the patent because A invented earlier than B. That's the first to invent system. So because the CRISPR inventions were made before to March 2013, back then US had a first to invent system. So US patents shall be given to the first inventor under the first to invent rule. So parties are fighting for patent through a special patent examination procedure called interference, which is a legacy of the first to invent system, in which who is the first will be decided. So, who are the runners? Are there only CBC or abroad? No, Turgen is a participant. Turgen is a Korean biotech company specializing in CRISPR-Cas9 technology and founded by a renowned scientist, Dr. Jin-Soo Kim. So, if you see this diagram, there are three parties are fighting, and then CBC and Broad, they are fighting twice. So the first fighting, the first interference that ended in 2018. At that time, as I said, CBC was not happy, but their patent is on the CRISPR-Cas system only. And then Broad patent is the CRISPR-Cas9 used in eukaryotes. So the court concluded there's no interference. That means they are different inventions. See, as I said, interference is a complete system on the same invention, but the US Patent Office concluded that they are different inventions. That means CRISPR-Cas9 system only invention is different from CRISPR-Cas9 used in eukaryote invention. So this is an excerpt of a High Court decision. It's cited. Okay, let me read some sentence here. When a colleague contacted Dr. Dojina to inform her of Broad's success, he stated, "I hope you are sitting down. CRISPR is turning out to be absolutely spectacular in George Church's hands." See, the court said applying prokaryotic systems in eukaryotes were unpredictable. That means it's not obvious, it's different. So, CBC failed, right? But the CBC did not give up. Within less than 1 year, they initiated another interference, second fight again. This time they came up with the same invention, CRISPR-Cas9 used in eukaryotes. But unfortunately, last year, the US Patent Office decided that Broad won. That means Broad is earlier than the CBC for the CRISPR-Cas9 in eukaryotes invention. Now the CBC appealed. So if you take a look at this slide, and Turgen is the earliest filer on the invention, CRISPR-Cas9 used in eukaryotes. Yes, there are two CBC's applications that crossed out there because neither of the two patent application contains working example, experiment data of CRISPR-Cas9 use in eukaryotes. So the US Patent Office did not recognize these two patent applications as for the CRISPR-Cas9 use in eukaryotes. So Truden is the earliest filer, and Broad, CVC, they are later, juniors, and Truden is senior. So what's the senior? Okay, the Truden interference started far later than the interferences between the CVC and Broad, right? And then the juniors, Broad and CVC, they ruthlessly try to swipe Truden's senior party entitlement. So after about 2 years of fighting, September last year, the US Patent Office affirmed that Truden is senior, officially acknowledged. That means Truden successfully defended its senior party position. Then why senior party matters? The junior party must go first in interferences, submitting its arguments and evidence without knowing what senior party has, just like shooting into the air, not at the target. The senior party can come later after reviewing junior party's arguments and evidence. And statistics say senior party's winning rate is about 75%. It's natural, right? The earlier the invention, the earlier the patent filing. So, because I spent some time, so let me skip this slide. So how to prove who is the first? So both parties submitted all the evidences which can prove they are the first, like lab notes, gel images, and emails, all kinds of things to prove they are earlier, right? So it happened during the second fight between CVC and Broad, but Broad won. So I like just you to taste some flavor of the decision procedure, right? So this is one piece of evidence submitted by CVC. They wanted to prove their conception is earlier. That's Dr. Inek's notebook. Or the kind of pictures or slides to prove their successful experiment result, that kind of thing, tons of data. So now, because CVC appealed, so Truden's interferences against CVC and Broad are suspended because the outcome of the appeal would influence Truden's interferences. But the patent community, and I didn't meet so all the patent attorneys that I met, they cautiously predict that Broad would win. So what if CVC fails to turn over the USPTO decision on appeal? The CVC will be removed from the scene, right? So only Truden and Broad will remain and continue to fight. So if somebody says that CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing in eukaryote patents would go to CVC or abroad, that cannot be trustworthy, fundamentally flawed statement. Here's why. CVC and broad evidence, their arguments and their stories are out there in the public domain, right? So anybody can see the evidence from the USPTO website. But nobody knows what Turgeon has. So only Turgeon knows what Turgeon has. So in the world, there is only one person who saw a CVC and broad evidence and arguments and Turgeon's as well, right? So as an individual who has been scrutinizing CVC's and broad evidence and Turgeon's, I am confident that Turgeon would be the winner. So what if Turgeon wins? Turgeon will be officially acknowledged as the US patent holder on CRISPR-Cas9 use in eukaryote patent. And all the companies using CRISPR-Cas9 in eukaryotes for the US market need a patent license from Turgeon. But by the way, I'd like to announce that the CRISPR-Cas9 is the most efficient and wonderful technology, and most studied, most analyzed. So Turgeon wants as many entities and scientists or companies use this wonderful technology, and then will be offering very amicable licensing terms. And sometimes I hear some scientists or companies saying only research and development use does not infringe patent, which is not true. Does infringe patent, but as I said, to expand the CRISPR-Cas9 horizon, Turgeon will be very generous in offering licensing terms, especially for startups or as scientists. So I think I spent most of my time allowed. So I prepared some slides for Turgeon's expertise in CRISPR-Cas9 technology. That we recently opened as a newly built R&D center in Oson, which is 150 kilometers south of Seoul. And I like to highlight just one achievement as an example of Turgeon's expertise in gene editing in plants. So Turgeon scientists were the first who were successful in CRISPR-Cas9 RNP transfection in October 2015. This is a public paper published in Nature Biotechnology, and then Nature reported this achievement. The report says, I think this is a milestone work for plant scientists, plant science. And then of course, much earlier than the paper publication, Turgeon filed an international patent application on the achievement. And then Turgeon does RNP transfection to protoplast and microspore. And then finally, Turgeon secured to regulatory exemption to the US government regulations for 3 plant items: petunia, soybean, and potato. And another soybean is waiting for the approval from the US government. So these 3 items are officially recognized by the US government as non-GMO products. So Truden's business models like this, licensing and seed and crop development and licensing and customer service for plant, that kind of thing. Okay, so my presentation only covers a part of Truden's plant gene editing expertise, so please come to Truden's booth and find the specifics and the secrets. Thank you.